You want to break the rules, but not just any rules, the ones that chain you. You want out of the desperate scramble for approval, out of the line, out of the playbook, out of the sheepfold, out of their desperate little game. You're tired of acting for a camera that's not even pointed at you. It's not about being alpha, beta, omega. Forget the letters, forget the pack. There's only you, the void, and what you choose to build in the silence. You know that feeling when you turn off the noise, phone dropped on the bed, door locked, world on mute. No likes, no comments, just the pulse of your blood and the thoughts you're afraid to admit are yours. That's the cradle of the Sigma. That's where it starts, stripped, alone, honest. You're not here for the handshake, not interested in applause. You want the power that comes from within, not from the cheap seats. You want the damn strategy, the game plan for living on your own terms. The rules you make, the path you carve, the silence you own, while everyone else is screaming for attention and dying for belonging. Start with your mind. Cut it open. Watch how thoughts crawl out, those needy, screeching things that want you to be like everyone else. How you're supposed to act, supposed to want, supposed to chase. Hear that inner voice, the one whispering that you're not enough unless someone says you are. Kill it. Bury it in the backyard at midnight. Pour gasoline on the grave. You won't find freedom in rebellion for its own sake. The Sigma doesn't reject just to be a contrarian. He walks away because the game is rigged. It's not running from the pack, it's walking because the herd's direction is irrelevant. So you wake up. The world wants you to play nice, wants you to smile, wants you to line up. You don't. You get up and make your bed not because someone told you, but because chaos is a liar and order is your weapon. You clean your space, you plan your day, you attack your goals, not for a pat on the head, but to mold the clay of your own existence. You pivot from the approval trap. You delete the dating apps. You stop checking who watched your story. You stop caring if she texts you back or if they think you're cool at work. You know who's cool. The one who doesn't need anyone to tell him he is. You build a body that answers only to your vision. Lift for strength, not for the mirror. Eat for fuel, not validation. You train your mind with books, not trends. Nietzsche, Marcus Aurelius, Dostoevsky, they're your counsel, not the latest influencer with plastic wisdom. You grind, but the grind is sacred. The ritual is private. Let them see the result, they'll never understand the process, and that's fine. Conversations change. You're not there to impress. You're not fishing for approval with every word. You listen, you judge, you keep your cards close. Small talk is for spectators. You're an operator. You see the game, the moves behind the moves. They laugh at things you don't find funny. They get nervous when there's silence. You're comfortable there, it's your home. Power is in detachment. Not cold, not cruel, just invulnerable. If she leaves, you let her. If they talk, you let them. Your value is carved in bone, not in gossip. People crave what they can't have. Mystery. Autonomy. Be the one who walks away, who doesn't need the deal, who's willing to lose. Watch what happens. They chase what escapes them. They want the attention of the one who doesn't serve it on a platter. The Sigma knows this, but he doesn't use it to manipulate. The chase is not the prize. Freedom is. You build skills. You don't announce it, you just do it. Learn to fight. Learn to cook. Learn to make money and don't flash cash. Build businesses in silence. Invest, read, experiment. You turn boredom into creativity. You're not scrolling, you're building. Every hour is for you, not for their highlight reels. Watch the world for what it is, not for what you wish it was. The Sigma male is a realist, a strategist. He knows human nature, studies psychology not to control, but to avoid being controlled. Social proof, tribe mentality, groupthink. You see it, you don't buy in. You move through parties like a ghost, present but not owned, smiling but untouchable. You reject superficiality. You don't care for surface pleasures, likes, hookups, temporary highs. You crave the deep work, the long game, the pain that creates diamonds. You're willing to go without, to sacrifice, to sit alone and face the parts of yourself that others drown in cheap company. You're your own king, council, and army. You plan, you execute, you reflect. No one can dethrone you because they're not even in the kingdom you built. Some nights the silence is heavy. Some days the world is cold and empty. But that's the price. That's how you become the magnet, the one they can't stop thinking about. Not because you tried, but because you didn't care to try. You don't need validation, but you get it anyway because your detachment is power, your presence is rare. They want to unravel you. They want to figure out what makes you different, and you let them wonder. This is just the start. This is the first turn of the key. You're about to break the lock. Keep going. You don't beg for entry, you make your own gate. Listen, there's going to be 100 moments today where someone expects you to kneel, to soften, to conform. It's in their eyes, in their little smirks, in the way they talk about you when you leave the room. They keep score. You stopped playing that game. They don't get it. You can see right through the facade, smiling faces, empty congratulations, just trying to help. You know the game. Everyone wants something, everyone's angling, but you're the one who can walk away. Power isn't about dominating others, it's about being immune to their need for your submission. You let people talk, let them debate, let them argue. You weigh your words, and when you speak, people listen not because you shout, but because you only speak what's worth saying. You master the art of silence, the pause that makes them uncomfortable. Nothing exposes fragility like someone who's comfortable in the quiet. You watch, you wait. Eyes like a hawk, heart like granite. You're the observer, the analyst, the one who knows the joke before the punchline. You go where others fear to. You walk alone into crowds, take the seat in the back, absorbed but not included. You see them notice. The magnetic pull of the one who doesn't need. That's you. They hate it, but they need it. A paradox that gnaws at their self-image. They want you to need them back, but you never do. Day after day, you sharpen the blade that is your mind. Your routines are rituals, sacred and non-negotiable, while they waste their mornings in bed, scrolling, escaping the day before it begins. You're up, pushing blood through muscle, words through ink, plans onto paper. You don't announce your work. That's for peasants. You let the results haunt them, let your wins crawl under their skin. You keep your circle small. Maybe one, maybe none. You know friendship isn't currency to be spent on everyone with a heartbeat. You'd rather be alone than in a room full of clowns. Loyalty is earned, not owed. Trust is a rare currency. You test people, not with traps, but with patience. See how they behave when they think you're not watching. See who they become when the mask drops. Your standards are granite. You don't lower them for comfort, for lust, for fleeting pleasure. You want what's rare: depth, honesty, principle. You filter out the noise. You're not chasing anyone's attention, and ironically, that's what draws every eye to you. When you don't beg for rain, the world wants to flood you. Romance, sure, you could have your pick, but you're not interested in decorations. You want substance, and you're willing to be celibate until you find it. You've killed the thirst, starved the need. The only relationship you nurture is the one in the mirror. If someone comes, they must be an addition, not a replacement for the void. If they go, they barely take a shadow. Every win is private. Every loss is a lesson, not a wound. You don't whine. You don't rant online. You process, adapt, and move on. You let them see what you want them to see. Sometimes you let them think they've won just to observe their true nature. Information is power, and you collect it as currency. Ambition is your pulse, not to prove, but to build, to conquer your own limitations. You learn for the love of learning, skill up because you refuse to be helpless. You're unmoved by trends, untethered by expectations. You do what's hard because it's hard. You're not avoiding pain, you're courting it because you know every comfort is a chain around your ankles. People around you sense the difference. Some admire, some envy, some plot because your presence makes them question their own choices. You don't have to outshine anyone. Your very existence is a spotlight. You don't tear down. You build, and in building, you make their castles look smaller. You're not for everyone. Some will misunderstand, feel threatened, call you cold. But you know warmth given too freely is wasted. Your affection, your praise, your time, they're rare metals, not to be handed out like cheap candy. You keep moving. Another project, another discipline. Mastery isn't a finish line for you, it's a path. You reinvent as needed, abandon what no longer serves, burn the bridge, and then pave a new road. Nostalgia is weakness. The past is only valuable if it sharpens your edge for the future. Remember this, you're not here to be liked or even to be loved. You're here to fulfill your code, whatever you decide it is. Purpose, meaning, sovereignty. And through that, ironically, the world will chase your ghost because so few have the courage to become one. You sleep at night not because the world approves, but because you approve of yourself. Pillow to mind, mind to darkness, your peace is paid in discipline. That's why you don't blink when the lights go out. That's why you get up again and the cycle repeats. You're not waiting for something to happen. You are what happens. You see it in the morning, don't you? You open your eyes and the world's already demanding payment. Notifications screeching, alarm blaring, the weight of expectation pressing against your chest before you even stand. But you're not like them. You don't reach for the phone. You don't look for validation. You don't scroll through everyone's highlight reel, panicking at what you're missing. You go straight to the mirror and look yourself dead in the eye. This is the only approval that matters, the only opinion you can trust. The reflection is hard, unflinching. There are no lies here, no filters, no followers. You stare until you see past the flesh, until you see the architect beneath, the strategist with a plan that doesn't include being a pawn in someone else's game. They're already awake, out there, millions of them sprinting to follow, desperate to belong. You hear them in the echo chamber, their voices bouncing off the walls of digital prisons. Trends, hashtags, fake outrage. Nobody's really living, they're all just reacting. But you are still. You choose your first move, not out of desperation, but calculation. You eat for fuel, raw, clean, unflinching. Food isn't comfort, it's ammunition. Your body is a machine, not a billboard. Others spend their mornings slouched, hunched, eyes glassy, already drained by the blue light, their willpower trickling out with the endless flick of the thumb. You harvest solitude. You welcome the chill of the shower, the sting of cold air, the aches of discipline. Each discomfort a stone in your foundation. You build your day in segments no one else sees. They won't know about the hours you spent perfecting your craft, the sweat that dries before sunrise, the pages you've filled with plans and revisions. You don't brag about the grind. You don't snap photos of struggle. Your suffering is your secret, and that's why it's sacred. When the herd arrives, they're always late. They're always loud. You move through them invisible, a shadow with eyes open. You nod, say little. Their words wash over you. They gossip, they exaggerate, they compete for a throne at a table you never asked to sit at. Their battles bore you. Their approval is a drug you've long since detoxed from. You notice the looks, the quiet measuring. They sense something's off. You don't pander, you don't chase, you don't need. That makes you dangerous. They press, they prod, looking for the crack in the armor. But you've welded every scene with silence and intention. Your presence is a puzzle with no edges. You've learned to walk away from conversations that are dead before they start. Work. Whatever you do it with a surgical detachment. Your time is not theirs to waste. You hunt efficiency, cut out the fat, perfect the task in half the steps they need. You don't volunteer for extra credit, you don't beg for attention. But you're the one they come to when things fall apart. The Sigma isn't loud, but his absence is deafening. Colleagues talk about you. They don't know if they like you, if they fear you, if they envy you. You don't care. You understand that being misunderstood is the cost of originality. You don't explain yourself. You don't apologize for standards. You're not here to smooth edges or make the insecure comfortable. Your boundaries are a fortress. You enforce them relentlessly. Watch how respect follows those who don't need it. You see them hustle for admiration. They paint faces, twist words, mold opinions. You spend your hours building skills. You learn something new every week, a language, a trade, the nuance of a tool. You invest in your mind the way others invest in fleeting trends. You are your own university. And when you fail in silence, dissecting the wound for marrow, turning pain into proficiency. Relationships, let's talk about that storm. People crave connection, but they fear true intimacy. They want to be liked by everyone, so they water themselves down. They become wallpaper, always present, never seen. You'd rather be hated for standing alone than loved for blending in. You don't chase. You don't beg for attention or affection. If someone spins into your orbit, they must match your gravity. Your love is not a salve for insecurity or a stage for theatrics. You offer depth, not drama. You're rare because you're whole. You know loneliness, but you never settle to escape it. They come to you confused and curious. Why are you so calm? Why can't you be bothered? Why do you seem immune to the chaos? You don't answer. You let your actions explain. They try to anchor you with guilt or shame, but you've long outgrown those chains. You evolve again. You cut the negative out of your life with ruthless precision. You delete contacts, leave groups, stop responding to low-energy calls. You let go of anything that doesn't elevate you. You're not afraid of emptiness. You know that from the void comes the raw material for reinvention. Night falls. The world crawls back to its screens, scrolling themselves numb. But you sit there, lights low, head clear. You reflect on the day, not with regret, but with curiosity. What did I conquer? Where did I falter? What will I build tomorrow? You don't fear the darkness. You use it. You let it sharpen you. Sleep isn't an escape, it's a reset. A ritual. You earned it. The world spins outside your window, but you're a fortress in the storm. That's the Sigma Creed. Stand alone, rule yourself, let the pack run wild. You're not in their race. You're writing a story they're too busy to read. You wake up and you remember, the world bends for those who refuse to break. That's all you needed to know. You move through the morning like a machine whose only fuel is intent. Every step has meaning, every gesture is stripped of waste. There's no room for small talk in your head. Even your thoughts are precise. You hear them, sometimes whispers of self-doubt, echoes of the old you. You let them float by. You don't fight them, you starve them. Starved things grow weak and leave you be. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. You've learned that. Loneliness is craving something out there to make you whole. Aloneness is knowing you're already complete. So you seek out spaces where you can hear yourself think, the gym lit by cold sunrise, the streets before the city wakes, the office while it's empty. That's when you're most alive. When it's just you and the grind, no audience, no distractions, no masks. You realize you're not hiding from the world, but unleashing yourself in the only place that can handle it. Solitude. You look over at the people who can't understand. Their chaos is predictable. They lurch from crisis to crisis, always searching for outside cures for inside wounds. They stuff their days with noise and company, thinking that if the music's loud enough, they won't hear the truth that it's emptiness that's chasing them, not boredom. You don't run. You let the emptiness in and you teach it to work for you. Out of the void you build. Out of the silence you create your next move. That's Sigma mind. Turn what scares others into your reason for waking up. You master your reactions. Doesn't matter if your boss yells, your partner nags, your friends flake. You don't flinch. You don't let them see a ripple. If it matters, you act. If it doesn't, you don't. The Sigma currency is energy limited, valuable. It's spent where it counts and nowhere else. You walk away from drama. You delete numbers without a second thought. You say no and mean it, and when you say yes, it's rare enough to matter. You walk differently. Not a swagger, not a strut, just straight lines and purpose in every stride. People pick up on it. They move aside without realizing. You enter a room and don't jockey for attention, yet all eyes find you anyway, searching for the source of the gravitational pull that shifted the energy. You don't need their admiration, and that's exactly why they want to give it to you. It's an irony you'll never bother explaining. When you speak, your words cut through the fog. Clarity is your weapon, and you wield it sparingly. You don't waste syllables on gossip, on self-promotion, on empty agreement. You ask the questions others avoid. You call bullshit when you smell it. You're not abrasive for the thrill of it. You're honest because nothing else feels right. People will push back, say you're too blunt, too hard. You let them. You've buried your need for approval alongside your fear of rejection. Both are shackles, and you're done wearing chains. You're a builder, not just of bodies or bank accounts or resumes, though you crush those too, but of reality. Every day you craft, edit, destroy, and rebuild. Your goals aren't borrowed. Your dreams aren't hand-me-downs. You distill out what doesn't serve, burn the rest, and use the ash to fertilize the next idea. Others play it safe, worship comfort, beg for instructions. You take risk as a lover and failure as a mentor. Each scar is a page in your playbook. They envy your independence, pretend not to notice your peace. Some will try to draw you out, break your rhythm, bait you into their circus. You don't take the bait. You know every reaction is a concession of power. You let the storms pass overhead and pick through the ruins for lessons. If someone steps to you, you don't escalate, don't retreat. You face them not with aggression, but with an unyielding calm that unsettles bullies and fascinates thinkers. There's hunger in you always. The world wants to numb it. Take it easy, they say. Enjoy the moment. But you don't buy it. You know comfort is a predator dressed as a pillow. You find your edge, sleep on it, let it sharpen you. You are always in motion, even when you're still. Your mind's working, planning, reconfiguring. Obsession is a dirty word to the average. To you, it's just another tool. They wonder how you do it. How you seem to resist the current, dodge the pitfalls, outlast the noise. They won't understand. Not really. Because to explain it would be to hand them a map they haven't earned. Your power is in the walk, not the talk. You give them glimpses, the rare smile, the flash of insight, but never the whole story. Mystery is your armor, and you wear it like a second skin. Sooner or later, someone will tell you to lighten up, to blend in, to go along, to just be normal. Let them talk. You know normal is just another word for invisible. You didn't claw your way out of mediocrity just to fade back into it. The world doesn't need another echo, it needs a signal, clear and unafraid. That's what you are. That's who you chose to be. You finish the day the way you started, alone and more than fine with it. You don't count followers, you count wins, lessons, scars. You stand in front of the mirror one last time, see the same eyes but a sharper mind, harder muscle, cleaner soul. You're not done, not by a long shot, but you're further than you were yesterday, and that's all the proof you need. You step into the noise of the world like a ghost made of steel, unseen until you choose to be seen. Your presence isn't about volume, it's about resonance. When you speak, it echoes because it's calibrated, honed, vital. Each word you let slip carries weight. Others speak to fill silence, you speak to break it. You feel the pull of outdated habits creeping in, the impulse to check your phone, the urge to curry favor, the temptation to spill your ambitions in crowded chats for cheap applause. You resist. Resistance is now a reflex. You catch that urge in the act, lock eyes with it, and let it suffocate in the no man's land of your discipline. You know distraction is the enemy. Every time you refuse it, you win a skirmish in your private war for sovereignty. Midday, the crowd thins out. You notice how people herd toward comfort, lunch breaks in the same spots, the same small talk, the same safe bets. But you're not here for safety. You choose challenge. You carry your own lunch, something fuel-dense, whatever you can eat while you work. You're half listening to the chatter around you, gathering intel, the rivals, the sycophants, the phonies. Knowledge is ammo. You note names, patterns, weak points. You keep it filed away for moments that matter. You walk down the corridor. You don't stride, you glide, calm, measured, invisible if you want to be. You own your personal orbit. Satellites of influence form around you, but you never grab them. You let them spin in your gravitational field, never tethered. When you want something, you summon it, but only when it aligns with your agenda. Your agenda is your North Star, and you never set sail without checking it. Your phone buzzes, a text from someone expecting you to RSVP to their status update. You pause, thumb hovering. You don't reply, you archive it. Let them think you're busy or disinterested, it doesn't matter. Your attention belongs to your goals, not their schedules. In the afternoon, you tackle the project everyone else dodges, the one that's too complex, too unglamorous, too high risk. You dive in because that's where growth hides. While they chase quick wins, you create asymmetric advantages. Hard work today births exponential edge tomorrow. You refine your methodology, cut redundancy, automate what you can, memorize what you must. You dismantle inefficiencies with the cold logic of a surgeon. During a lull, you retreat to pen and paper. Digital chaos is toxic. You handwrite your next moves, deadlines, tactics, metrics. The act slows your mind just enough to see the chessboard clearly. You plot your maneuvers 3 steps ahead. You identify the obstacles, internal and external, and draft countermeasures that feel almost brutal. You don't regret strategies that end with no mercy. Efficiency requires decisiveness. As evening approaches, others are clocking out, shifting into comfort mode, happy hour, streaming shows, mindless chatter. You sharpen yourself instead. Maybe it's a solo training session, a language lesson, a chapter of Stoic philosophy followed by a self-penned reflection. You consume content only if it fortifies your core. Entertainment is a virus of stagnation. You quarantine yourself from it. When you return home, you practice the ritual that keeps your mind unwound but alert. No screen time, the blue light is a siren. Instead, you light a single lamp, brew something bitter, and sit in silence. You journal one question: where did I compromise today? You're looking for the cracks in your armor, the moments you dipped into conformity or shortcuts. You don't flinch from your own critique. You record the truth, then reconcile it with action items for tomorrow. Later at night, you face the most critical challenge, the conversation with yourself. The walls are thin. The ghosts of past failures lurk. You don't banish them. You hold them close like old mentors. You ask, why am I afraid to fail again? Why did I half-heartedly avoid that conflict? You listen. It isn't comfortable. Your pulse rises. But you don't escape. You name the fear. You stare it straight in the eye. You remind yourself that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. You finish with a mantra spoken low before sleep: I own this life. No circumstance will own me. It's more than words, it's an unbreakable contract with yourself. You sign it in silence. When you finally drift off, it's with the satisfaction of someone who has lived deliberately. Not perfect, but accountable. You know tomorrow the world will ring its alarms again, but you'll respond with the same calm ferocity. You'll continue to forge that silent fortress around your mind, a citadel that no approval, no distraction, no compromise can breach. This is your path. No map can guide you. No crowd can define you. You move forward alone, but never lonely, for you carry your own compass, your own fire, your own unwavering conviction. And in that solitude you find the power, the quiet, relentless power of the Sigma. You don't rest easy. Even in sleep your subconscious runs its drills, waking you at odd hours with fragments of plans, half-formed strategies, the faint buzz of opportunity just beyond reach. You learn to catch those whispers before they vanish. You roll out of bed at 3 a.m., heart pounding, not from fear, but from raw anticipation. You seize the hour when others are lost to dreams, carving out advantage in their absence. Darkness is your ally. You lace your shoes and step outside. The world is silent, but for your breath and the soles against pavement. No streetlights, no soundtrack, just you and the pulse of your determination. This is the hour of the Sigma, unclaimed, unobserved, unlimited. You push through your usual routes, testing stamina, recalibrating pain thresholds. Every drop of sweat is an imprint of your resolve. I adorn your back, not for show, but because discipline demands routine. You take that shower again, icy needles on skin, reminding your body that comfort is the real enemy. You confront the mirror with a stare anchored in promise. I'm not the same man I was yesterday. I'm a sharpened version, ready for the next push. Work begins and the pack stirs. They yawn, nod, sip coffee as if it's going to solve a lifetime of indecision. You're already 3 moves ahead. Their chatter about weekend plans and trivial complaints floats past your zone. You're mapping resources, potential alliances, blind spots in your domain. You talk when necessary, concise, purposeful, leaving no room for misinterpretation. Every conversation is an exchange of value. You'd rather stay silent than deliver worthless words. An obstacle surfaces. A colleague undermines your project in the hallway. Passive-aggressive remarks masters friendly feedback. Most would bristle or ignore. You don't react. You register tone, body language, choice of words, then file it under intel. Later you approach them alone. Calm, low voice, eyes fixed. I noticed your concerns. Let's align on the outcome we both want. You propose a solution that meshes with their ego while accelerating your agenda. They leave confused. They expected a fight, but you delivered collaboration. Control without a display of force, that's mastery. Lunch isn't a social event, it's a nutrient strategy. You consume what nourishes, nothing for pleasure. You scan the room of gossipers, people desperate for validation. You're reminded why you remain a shadow. Their approval is a leash you burned years ago. You close your eyes for 2 minutes, micro-meditation, resetting your focus. When you reopen them, the world looks smaller, dimmer under your authority. Afternoon drags, not for you. You dive into your creative sanctuary. A side project you've built in secret. It's not about profit yet. It's about sculpting an idea with total autonomy. You iterate, discard, rebuild your mind, a forge of innovation. You're unconcerned with deadlines or investors. This project is proof of concept for your own potential. Then comes communication, a message from someone wanting to hang out. Most would jump at social time, crave the dopamine hit. You pause. You consider whether it aligns with your mission. If it fuels growth, you accept. If it's a time sink, you decline without guilt. You set the next meeting date rather than asking when they're free. You flip the power dynamic. Your schedule dictates theirs, not vice versa. Late afternoon, you step outside again for air, perspective, control. You walk in purposeful silence past the office buildings. Your mind replays the day's wins and the missteps. There were a few. You note them without self-flagellation, turning failure into data. You refine tomorrow's plan to avoid yesterday's blind spots. Back at the desk, you close the day by logging your metrics. Time spent, energy expended, results produced. You compare against the week's baseline, adjusting thresholds upward. You don't measure against others, you measure only against your last best self. That's the only competition worth having. Evening rituals differ from the crowd's. No endless scroll, no binge watching. You pick one high-impact activity, language drills, strategic reading, or a sparring session that demands every ounce of focus. You schedule it into your calendar as immovable as a surgery appointment. You treat it with equal seriousness. Dinner is lean, sustainable fuel. You prepare it yourself because you've reclaimed every part of your life from outsourcing or indifference. You savor the act of creation, precision chopping, exact seasoning, no room for half measures. The process reminds you that greatness lies in details. As night deepens, you light a single lamp and turn to the page. You read a text on human behavior, then write a reflection. How can I apply this tomorrow? How can I anticipate the psychological moves of those around me? You draft a list of social experiments, small calibrations to test group dynamics, power shifts, influence without coercion. You don't use these tests to manipulate for petty gain. You use them to sharpen your perception and fortify your autonomy. Before sleep, you run through the mantra, not out of habit, but reinforcement. I lead myself. I break from the herd. I am the architect of my life. You feel its vibration in your chest, a low hum of unshakable conviction. When you finally lie down, there's no racing mind. You've exercised uncertainty with action, transformed anxiety into ritual, and claim your rest as a reward. The world can clamor all it wants. You'll answer tomorrow on your terms. Because every dawn you prove it. Power is quiet, autonomy is victory, and a Sigma male forges his path in the space between noise and stillness. Crisis comes unannounced. 1 minute you're coasting, the next everything trembles. A deal collapses, a message cuts deeper than expected, the ground shakes underfoot. Most would panic, grasp at straws, beg for rescue. You don't. You've trained your mind to treat chaos as another tool in the workshop. You welcome the tremor because it tells you where the structure is weak. You don't plug the crack, you redesign the entire blueprint. When the email arrives at noon, tone clipped, blame implied, you feel the pulse quicken in your veins. That used to mean fear, self-doubt. Now it means clarity. You lean back, close your eyes, and breathe in 4 counts, out 6. The tension drains from your shoulders. You know the body obeys the mind, so you control the mind first. You call a 10-minute retreat. No phone, no screens, no interruptions. You slip on noise-canceling headphones and play the same low-frequency track you've tested for maximum focus. You've turned stress into ritual. After the buffer, you open the message. You read deliberately, passing subtext. Where's the panic seeping in? Where's the ego flexing? You see their weaknesses spelled out in passive-aggressive phrasing. Most would burn with indignation. You smile, because now you have leverage. You craft a response that neutralizes their anxiety, offers a solution that keeps you in control, and shifts perceived leadership back to you. 2 sentences, 4 precise words. You send it without hesitation. The moment you hit send, you've reclaimed authority. You've learned to detach from outcome. You don't need them to thank you or agree. You just need them to respond. You know engagement is the lifeblood of influence. You wait 3 hours before following up with a clarifying question. Never more, never less, just to remind them you're not desperate. Then you move on. You don't obsess over their answer. Your energy gets invested in the next critical task. By late afternoon, someone corners you about the team dynamic again, hinting you're too aloof. The old you might explain, justify, soften. The Sigma you simply nod and say, teams work when goals align. Define success and I'll match it. No offense, no charm offensive, just boundary and focus. They blink, caught off guard. They walk away puzzled, scanning their own assumptions. You win a silent victory without lifting a finger. You don't share this method. People would misuse it. You keep it locked behind a vault of experience. Occasionally, a new recruit notices your results and asks for mentorship. You don't hold sessions. You ask them one question: why do you want it? If their answer smacks of ego or approval seeking, you send them away. If it's hunger for growth, you offer one pointer and watch them burn with purpose. You supply the spark, they supply the fire. Night falls again, and you're back in your sanctuary. You light that single lamp, brew something bitter, and pull out the journal. Tonight's prompt isn't about tomorrow's plan. Tonight you interrogate your integrity. You ask, where did I sacrifice principle for comfort? When did I let convenience override conviction? You don't answer lightly. You scour your day for any compromise, any moment you slipped back toward the herd. You find 2. You write them down. Then you draft 2 actions to correct them. One immediate, one long-term. You don't rest until every compromise has a remedy. You close the journal and stand. You don't rush to bed. You need the mind reset. So you practice cold exposure, a 5-minute ice bath. You step in slowly, feeling the water hit your chest like 1,000 needles. Your lungs scream. Your mind fights. But you hold still. You control the breath, count its rhythm, anchor in the moment. The world melts away until it's just you, water, and the unwavering will to endure. When you step out, you're reborn, every cell humming with presence. Before sleep, you speak your new mantra, tailored for the next day. I choose discomfort over stagnation. I break my own limits. I accept nothing less than full accountability. You hear it in your own voice. It resonates. It's not empty bravado. It's a contract with yourself, signed in pain and discipline. Tomorrow the alarm will burst through the silence again. You'll rise. The cycle repeats. But you know the transformation isn't linear. It's a spiral, each loop tighter, each ascent steeper. You're not chasing perfection, you're harnessing the process. And in that process lies your true power. The relentless commitment to become someone who no crisis can shake, no distraction can derail, no opinion can sway. This path is solitary, but it's not lonely. You carry your own clarity, your own fire. You've built a fortress of mind so impenetrable that others' expectations rebound off it like stones. You don't need them to understand. You only need to watch them adapt around your presence. You don't fight the world. You move through it like water, shaping every channel on your own terms. And one day, when the struggle is over, if it ever truly ends, you'll look back and see it wasn't the victories that defined you. It was the moments you stared down discomfort, embraced silence, and chose your own code over convenience. That is the Sigma way. You don't wake up tomorrow expecting comfort. You wake up expecting battle because life rewards the fighters, not the bystanders. You carry that knowledge into the first seconds of consciousness. The darkness before dawn is your training ground. You sit on the edge of the mattress, legs hanging off, and you let your mind chase its own tail until you catch the frayed end of fear. You stare it down. You remind it who's in charge. You haven't looked at social media in weeks. You don't need the hollow applause of strangers. You don't care about trending opinions or viral challenges. You've replaced that noise with cold routines. You step into the kitchen, open the fridge, and you see the leftovers of yesterday: lean protein, greens, energizing fats. You don't ponder flavor, you calculate fuel. You eat like a machine primed for battle. No guilt, no pleasure, just purpose in each bite. The mirror stares back. You don't flinch at the lines on your face, the shadows under your eyes. Those are battle scars from nights spent conquering your own doubts. You flex your jaw, test the grip of resolve in your stance. Today you decide you'll push 1% harder than yesterday. You always do. The Sigma knows there is no rest in excellence. There is only evolution. You head out, the city still half asleep. Your stride is silent but thunderous in its intent. You're both predator and phantom. No eyes can track you, but they feel your presence. The world adjusts to you unconsciously. Traffic parts, conversations shift, the atmosphere tightens around your orbit. You pass by coffee shops, bursting with people seeking artificial stimulation. You don't need a crutch. Your energy is self-generated, an internal reactor that never runs dry. On the way to your first task, you run the morning reflection. 2 minutes. What did I conquer yesterday? Where did I falter? You replay the struggles, the temptation to skip a set, the flicker of impulse to reach for your phone, the second when you almost let someone's criticism break your focus. You file them as mission-critical intel. You vow to obliterate those weaknesses today. Work calls. You sit at your desk with no fanfare, no small talk. Emails waiting, deadlines looming, problems stacked like ammunition. You attack them like a strategist. Triage the urgent, delegate the less critical, automate the trivial. You silence distractions, phone off, notifications buried, chat bubbles muted. You carve out blocks of ruthless concentration. In that state, time collapses. 3 hours pass like 3 minutes, and when you break, the world's jaws drop at the volume of progress you've scored. They call it productivity, you call it your baseline. A peer approaches, face drawn with that familiar blend of envy and desperation. "Teach me your ways," they whisper, hoping to siphon your energy. You don't smile, you don't laugh. You glimpse the truth. They want a shortcut. They want your power handed over, packaged with instructions. You lean in, cold eyes locked on theirs, and you say, "There's no teaching, only earning." You back away and return to your work. You don't offer comfort. You offer a challenge. If they want it, they'll find it themselves. Lunch is deliberate solitude. You pack a protein shake and a handful of nuts, then retreat to your favorite park bench, the one no one else uses because it's off the beaten path. You sit, blend the shake, and close your eyes for 5 minutes of uncomplicated breathing. You feel your heart rate slow, your mind sharpen. This is meditation by necessity, not spirituality. You don't chase enlightenment, you claim efficiency. You leave when the clock says it's time, not when the lunch hour smoke breaks end. Afternoon brings the unpredictable, an unplanned meeting, a crisis in the supply chain, a demand to conform. You don't flail, you adjust. You view obstacles as levers push one way and power emerges somewhere else. You identify the root, fear of failure, blame shifting, lack of ownership. You address it. You strip away the drama, hand over solutions, and watch leadership imprint itself onto your shoulders. They don't question you, they follow you. And you let them because you need their compliance less than they need your clarity. By late afternoon, your body feels the strain of focus. You don't ignore it. You step away for 10 minutes of mobility work, stretching, breath drills, micro breaks that prevent the body from rebelling against the mind. You treat the vessel with respect because you can't sustain dominance in a cage of tension and pain. You reset your posture, flex your hands, and return feeling physically aligned with the mental momentum you've built. Then it's time for your side project, the one that no one sees until it's fully formed. You open the blueprint, jot down new variables, pivot on a critical assumption. You test an algorithm, sketch a design, write an outline. You know success isn't overnight, it's incremental. You sprinkle your vision across months of patient iteration. Each session you edge the needle forward. Each iteration you harvest lessons like a farmer harvesting grain. You don't wait for applause, you wait for results. Evening arrives. Most will slump on sofas, mindlessly consume entertainment. Not you. You brew green tea, open a book on cognitive bias, and take notes. You interrogate every claim, cross-reference studies, debate footnotes in your mind. You build a mental vault of insights no one else has bothered to seek. You own complexity. You don't fear it. You embrace it. A text arrives, an invitation to a party, a promise of easy distractions. You glance at it. You smile at the predictability. You thumb over the screen, delete, and let it vanish. Your evening is reserved for intentional growth. You close by reviewing your day's metrics, growth of skill, depth of focus, quality of decisions. You score yourself harshly. You dedicate one line in your journal to a single sentence. Tomorrow be tougher. Before you lie down, you stand in the quiet. You feel the tension in your calves, the hum in your mind, the flicker of hunger for the next conquest. You clasp your hands behind your back and exhale. You do one more mental checkpoint. Are you still the king of yourself? Your answer is a roar in your chest, silent to everyone but you. You allow the echo to settle before you lie down. When sleep comes, you don't dream in fantasy. Your dreams are blueprints, diagrams, simulations of tomorrow's challenges. You wake, you confront them, you conquer them. Then you wake again and repeat. This is your life. Disciplined obsession, relentless refinement, sovereign presence. So sleep if you must. But know this, your empire is built in the moments others waste. Your victory is etched in the routines they refuse. Your power lies in the space between their need for comfort and your unquenchable thirst for growth. And in that space, you are the undisputed architect. You don't wait for permission. You don't linger for an invitation. At sunrise, you're already in motion, mind engaged, body primed. Today's challenge isn't luck or circumstance. It's your own limits. You've set the bar so high that every success feels modest, every breakthrough just another step. That's how you know you're alive. You start with cold exposure before your feet even hit the floor. 5 minutes of ice water on your back, arms, chest, an electric shock that divorces you from comfort before the day begins. Your lungs burn, your teeth chatter, and you hold steady. You tell yourself, I own pain. When the alarm blares tomorrow, your body will remember this moment and obey the mind's command instead of cowering. Breakfast is a tactical choice. You blend raw oats, berries, protein isolate, MCT oil, greens powder, no sugar, no fluff. You don't eat for taste, you eat for function. Every macro calculated, every calorie accounted. You lift the shaker to your lips like a chalice. The ritual is simple but profound. Fuel your power or feed your weakness. Next, you carve out 2 hours of uninterrupted deep work. You clear your desk of everything non-essential, no papers, no devices, no distractions. You've mastered the art of the monastic office. Single task focus, maximal output. You open your project file and immerse. Ideas flow, blocks dissolve, time distorts. 3 pages of writing, 2 prototypes sketched, 1 algorithm refactored. It's not talent, it's practice, discipline, the daily sharpening of the mind's blade. Interruptions come, emails, messages, knock from colleagues. Most Sigma boys crumble under constant pull. You've installed digital barricades. Auto-responses tell the world you're in focus mode. You check a handful of priority messages once at the top of the hour, no more. You've trained your social reflexes the same way you train your body. Minimal, precise, potent. By midday, your energy dips. You don't crash. You reach for your performance stack, nutrients, nootropics, adaptogens. You've researched them, tested them. You don't take advice, you run experiments. You note which dosages give you peak clarity, then you lock them in place. You're the chemist of your own engine. Brains wired and systems humming, you tackle the gauntlet of social demands. Someone wants a meeting, someone else needs feedback, invitations ping for networking events where people talk more than act. You sort them into value and void. For value you respond. For void you stonewall. You don't apologize. You don't explain. You enforce your calendar like a fortress gate. Lunch is another micro-ritual. A walk outside, brief sunlight break, deep breath, lung expansion. Nature doesn't entertain excuses. You step away from glass and concrete and reconnect with the primal rhythm of earth. 2 minutes bare feet on grass, the world fades, the mind clears, the day resets. Afternoon brings conflict. A senior peer tries to steamroll your proposal. They escalate volume, rhetoric dripping with misplaced authority. You don't flinch. You listen, absorbing every tone, every syllable. When they pause, you speak calmly, deconstructing their points with surgical logic. You don't raise your voice. You don't plead. You dismantle objections, pivot to facts, and reframe the narrative so your solution stands as the only rational choice. The room quiets. You hold the floor. You've reclaimed power without drama. Later, you devote time to 1 hour of study in the art of influence, persuasion, negotiation. You cycle through texts on cognitive bias, body language subtleties, pattern interrupts. But you don't memorize scripts. You internalize principles and test them in real conversations, adjusting your tone, your timing, your energy. Your voice becomes an instrument, your presence a channel that guides outcomes rather than pushes them. By late afternoon, you shift gears into physical training. You've mapped your body's weak points, sculpted a progressive overload plan that demands more weight, more reps, more challenge every session. Today is pure strength, compound lifts, heavy sets. You attack the barbell like an opponent in the ring. Each rep is a declaration. I control this weight. It will not control me. You rack the bar, sweat dripping, lungs roaring, and you savor that moment of conquest. Post-workout, you slip into an ice bath again. Recovery is as important as assault. You embrace the bite of cold a second time, not for shock value, but for the metabolic reset, the hormone response, the mental edge that stays with you long after the water chills your bones. Dinner is communal if you choose. You know the difference between companionship and crowd. Tonight you join a small circle of peers who challenge you, who hold you accountable. Conversation is fierce, honest, unfiltered. You spar verbally, exchange insights, test theories, and calibrate each other's strategies for growth. You leave the table sharper, hungrier, driven by collective elevation rather than empty camaraderie. Evening rituals wrap the day's conquest. You dim the lights, light a single candle, and retreat to your journal. You answer 3 questions. What edge did I push today? Where did I yield? What will I do tomorrow to right that? You write in half sentences, bullet thoughts, raw truth. No self-pity. No excuses. Only data, only directives. You follow with a short guided meditation. Focus on the breath. Observe the mind's chatter. Let go. You don't seek transcendence, you seek clarity. You empty the tank of worry so rest can do its work. As you lie down, you recite your mantra in your mind, not out loud. I am forged in cold, defined in action, sovereign in mind. The words ring like a bell. They're not an affirmation, they're an identity you've earned with every disciplined step. Sleep is not an escape. Sleep is the next frontier, an active component of your regimen. You track your cycles, optimize your environment, eliminate light and sound intruders. You go lights out with the same ruthlessness you apply to your waking hours, because even in rest, excellence demands vigilance. Tomorrow will bring fresh battles. New doubts will test your mettle. But by then you will already be awake, already advancing, already proving that autonomy isn't a concept, it's a daily conquest. And in that conquest you become more than a man. You become an institution of one. You don't equate rest with weakness. When dawn breaks, you've already conquered miles of thought, rewrote yesterday's failures as data points, and mapped the path for tomorrow's assault. But somewhere in that margin between wakefulness and action, you allow yourself a sliver of stillness, the unspoken moment before the world demands your locks be picked. You sit on the edge of your bed, spine straight, eyes closed, and you ask yourself, who are you becoming today? Not who you were yesterday, but who you must be to outgrow today's challenges. You leap from the sheets like a cold steel trap snapping shut. There's no hesitation. You've preloaded your mornings with rituals so ingrained the body moves before the mind questions. You whip the kettle on, stoke your fire of priority, and while the water boils you scan your handwritten manifesto of goals, those same goals you refine each night in the candle's flicker. You shift one deadline, raise one benchmark, tighten one metric. There's no plateau on your horizon. You prepare your first beverage, strong black coffee or bitter tea, something that cuts through the haze of sleep without apology. You drink it straight, no additives. You taste clarity in its bite and let it carve space in your head for intention. You don't scroll, you don't check messages, you don't cave to the dopamine itch. Instead, you stand at the window, watching smoke rise from rooftop vents, reading the city's heartbeat in its exhalations. You feel your own pulse synchronize with the urban rhythm, calm yet unrelenting. Your mind shifts gear, priorities. You list them in silence, no paper, no screen, because your brain must learn to be the storage vault, not a passing cloud. You can feel the shift of energy as each priority clicks into place. Task 1. Conquer fear of failure in the new venture. Task 2. Deepen emotional resilience so no setback fractures your calm. Task 3. Refine one social dynamic so you lose nothing in translation when influence matters. You begin the sequence without fanfare, body moving with machine precision. Morning's deep work strikes again. Today it's your passion project, the one you cradle in private because it scares you as much as it excites you. You slit the data open, growth projections, market anomalies, creative blueprints, and you dissect each component with obsessive focus. You whittle away assumptions that have outlived their usefulness. You test alternate approaches against cold logic. You let intuition guide your hands, and when doubt flares, you burn it with relentless questioning. What evidence do I have? What pattern am I missing? What would a sigma do? Minutes lengthen, hours shrink, and you're in that zone where time is both infinite and null. You measure progress by momentum, not clock time. When the work is done, when the mental scaffolding aligns and the prototype or draft or model stands on its own, you lean back, eyes closed, a satisfied grin, almost involuntary. You've carved a new piece of reality from raw thought, and nobody saw you do it. That's your edge. But the world demands income and influence, so you switch gears, suit up metaphorically, and enter the arena of external obligations. You don't dread it. You see it as another board to master, another code to crack. You navigate back-to-back meetings with a practiced calm. You speak only when your voice adds weight. Otherwise, you listen, gather data, and consider the unspoken. You know names, desires, fears of the people across the table before they've voiced them. You hold back strategic reveals until they've emptied their reserves of doubt. Lunch approaches, and you deviate from the herd's ritual of the corner deli. You've packed a precise meal forecasted to sustain without lag: tuna, avocado, quinoa, spinach. You find a secluded bench, close your eyes briefly and breathe deeply. You taste each bite with purposeful mindfulness. This is not about pleasure, but about fueling the man who has no second chances. You memorize the knot in your shoulders, the itch in your mind, the ebb of your focus, and you let the nutrition reset the system. Mid-afternoon, a colleague questions your unconventional methods. They think your detachment signals disinterest, your silence arrogance. You smile inwardly. Misinterpretation is a shield as effective as steel. You correct their assumption with 3 words: "I'm all in." Then you turn your attention back to the task at hand, internalizing that action is always the best rebuttal to misjudgment. A sudden crisis strikes your side project: server crash, miscalculation, unforeseen obstacle. Others would panic. You don't flinch. You pivot. You dispatch a quick audit, restore from backups, patch the vulnerability, and you document every line of code. You absent yourself from the panic vortex. You submerge in solution mode. By evening, the system is stronger than before. You call it a victory in adversity. Night creeps in, but your mind stays lit. You return home, stow your daily armor, and cloak yourself in solitude. You choose 1 book a week to devour this month. It's Stoic wisdom on the trials of leadership. You highlight passages that resonate. The obstacle on the path becomes the path. You fold the page and write a brief reflection in your journal. Which obstacle today became my strongest ally? You refine your philosophy from living experience, not idle theory. Your body demands attention too. You engage in mobility and recovery rituals: stretch, foam roll, breath work. You see your physical vessel as the ultimate tool. If it fails, everything collapses. You treat each muscle with reverence and resolve. Your final act before sleep is unorthodox. You write a letter to your future self. You praise the moments you rose above ease and pit the ghosts you've exercised. You articulate a vow: tomorrow, let me surprise myself. You seal the letter mentally. It's not for anyone else's eyes, just the covenant between who you were, who you are, and who you'll become. Then darkness greets you, but it no longer threatens. You welcome its silence, its canvas for tomorrow's designs. Your last thought isn't of burdens lifted, but of new battles to be claimed. And with that electrifying note, you drift off, knowing that when you wake, the world will bend again for those who refuse to break, and once more, you'll prove you're that person. You wake again before the sky shifts, before the first thread of light stitches night to day. That's your edge moving when the world slumbers. You don't linger in bed, you don't chase comfort. You sit up, feet on the floor, and you feel the pull of purpose tugging at your spine. Every cell hums: get up, move, conquer. You strip the covers, stand, and without hesitation you plunge into the cold shower. The water strikes like hail, chest, arms, face freezing, furious. That shock isn't torture, it's baptism. It brands your body with alertness, carves clarity into your mind. You breathe deep, grounding yourself in the moment. You own this, you own today, you own every choice in between. Dressed in gear you chose for function, not fashion, you pour black coffee into a steel mug. No sugar, no cream. You drink the bitterness as proof you won't dilute your focus. You don't scroll through news feeds or messages. You don't gift your morning to other people's agendas. Instead, you pause in the kitchen, mug in hand, and you reflect. What's the one mission today that will tilt the axis of my world? You hold that mission like a diamond in your palm, turning it over until every facet of your day aligns with it. You step outside and you move the city's arteries pulsing with sleepwalkers. They drift, they drift, they drift. You stride. Your steps announce intent. You're the only one awake in a crowd of ghosts. Your mind shifts into its second gear, morning pages. You pull out your notebook pages you've filled these last 100 mornings with gratitude, strategy, and confession. You write a bullet. Today I will dismantle one illusion of limitation. You scribble beneath it 2 tactics, one to confront internal doubt, one to challenge external boundaries. Then you close the book. The thought is seeded, now it's time to grow. At your desk, before the inbox can test your emotions, you launch into deep work. Your project is unglamorous, a build no one understands yet. But you do. You see its shape in the raw materials of code, design, or text. You carve out hours with the relentlessness of a tidal wave. They say flow is rare. You say flow is earned through ritual and refusal to be distracted. You let the world fade, you let time blur, you let productivity become poetry. Lunch is nomadic. You pack services of the body, not indulgences. Lean protein, greens, healthy fats. You don't eat to celebrate, you eat to sustain. You find a slice of green park bench, rooftop alcove, and you eat slowly, deliberately. You close your eyes for a moment and feel the earth hold you. You smile because you've trained yourself to find comfort in necessity, peace in discipline. The afternoon throws curveballs. Someone flares drama, another pushes for compromise. Most men quake under this heat. You don't. You smell the fear behind their words, the greed behind their ask, the guilt behind their pitch. You lean back, collect your breath, and you respond with 3 sentences that refocus the conversation on mutual gain, your gain, and theirs. No cruelty, just precision. You leave them speechless. You've shifted power by refusing to play their game. You've become both architect and demolition expert. You design your life and you flatten anything that blocks your path. Yesterday's obstacles are today's stepping stones. You catalog every friction point in your mind, then you design a lever to pry it out. You celebrate only one thing, movement. Progress is the only approval you need. Late afternoon, you honor your body again. You hit the gym or the pavement not to be seen, but to be felt. You lift heavy or you sprint until your lungs burn. Every rep, every step is an act of defiance against stagnation. You finish exhausted but electric, purpose coursing through your veins. Dinner is solitary or selective. You choose your company like ammunition, rare, calibrated, potent. You don't fill your table, you sharpen your mind. If you stay in, you cook for one and savor the silence. If you go out, you pick a private booth in a place known only to a few. Conversation is terse, sincere, strategic. You exchange ideas, not gossip. You measure the quality of interaction like you measure the quality of your training, by the growth it demands. Evening is reflection. You dim the lights, light a single candle, or leave them off entirely. You open your journal. What illusions did I dismantle today? Where did I tolerate excuses? You don't sugarcoat. You write in fragments, raw and honest. Then you draft tomorrow's mission, the single conquest that will keep your ascent unforgiving. You don't plan the day, you architect your legacy. Finally, you enter your ritual of detachment. You sit in darkness or dim red light, disconnecting from all devices. You spend 10 minutes breathing, counting inhales, counting exhales until your mind unclamps its grip on the day. You don't chase dreams, you let them come, inviting the subconscious to solve problems you couldn't touch in daylight. Then you lie down. Your body is tired, yes, but content a warrior at rest. You smile to yourself because you know sleep is not the enemy. It's the reward. You've earned every second of this quiet. And when you drift off, you carry this conviction into your dreams, that tomorrow you will once again break the chains of mediocrity, forge them into new edges of excellence, and rise before the world demands you to be anything less than sovereign. You don't wait for permission. You don't ask for signals. You simply act, and that's what sets you apart. Today, like every day, you move first, think fast, adapt quicker. You harness the moment before it becomes someone else's agenda. You leap out of bed as the sky bleeds grey, feet hitting hardwood before your mind can summon excuses. You slam 2 glasses of icy water, feeling the shock electrify your blood. You're alive, awake, alert. There's no time for grogginess. You've already lost if you surrender even 1 second to fatigue. Your morning run isn't about mileage, it's about testing the boundaries of your comfort. You push through sprints on empty streets, reveling in the raw sensation of your heart pounding as though it's trying to rip free. You embrace the burn in your lungs because every rapid inhale reminds you that you're stronger than yesterday's limitations. Back home, you gut your kitchen of any trace of sugar or empty calories. You don't cook recipes, you engineer sustenance. Protein, fiber, fats calibrated to power each neuron and muscle. You eat standing up in silence. You taste no flavor but the promise of performance. Even this act is strategic. Every bite fuels the machine of your ambition. You open your command center laptop, notes, charts, but you don't dive straight in. First, you meditate for 10 minutes, eyes closed, mind scanning each thought like a radar for sabotage. Any trace of doubt you spot, you neutralize by reciting your personal creed. I am sovereign. I am relentless. I am the author of my fate. As the echoes of that creed reverberate in your chest, you know they're not empty words, they're contracts forged in action. You assemble today's impact triad, the 3 most consequential tasks that will move your life forward. Not the small wins, those come for free once you've solved the big ones. You assign each triad item a time block and a bulletproof start trigger. No distractions, no mid-task app checks. You're locked in. Task 1. You tackle the project everyone else calls too ambitious. You don't fear ambition, you crave it. You break it into micro steps, each clearly defined. You block off your calendar, silence Slack, barricade your digital doors. You dive in headfirst, losing track of time, eyes flicking with that fierce focus that makes lesser minds wilt. You deliver more progress by noon than most do all week. Midday arrives and most people exhale as though they've earned a break. You don't. You switch from creative assault to strategic networking, but not the timid kind. You connect with purpose. You reach out to one top-tier contact, not for favors, but to exchange value. You send a concise message. I've identified a growth opportunity in your X domain, let's discuss. Boom. You've flipped the script. You're not a supplicant, you're a contributor. Lunch isn't a social obligation, it's a performance enhancer. You eat raw nutrients on the go, no sandwich lines, no chit-chat cues. You walk eyes forward, breathing deeply, absorbing oxygen like a Spartan warrior preparing for battle. While they gossip, you envision your next conquest. Portray the crowd as static background noise. You're the moving target they can't quite hit. Task 2. A negotiation looms this afternoon. They'll try to undermine you with pressure tactics, bait and switch, double talk, false deadlines. You arrive ready. You've rehearsed your value proposition, gathered your data, armed yourself with alternative options. You don't flinch at bait, you redirect. If your goal is X, here's the path. If your deadline is Y, here's how we meet it. No fluff, no appeasement. You guide them into your framework, making them partners in your success, not masters of your fate. The negotiation melts under your calm authority. You secure better terms, yes, but more importantly, you teach them that you're not to be rushed or bullied. You leave them respecting the force of your composed intelligence. Sun sinks lower and you shift into task 3, self-evolution. You don't outsource growth, you manufacture it. You spend an hour on deliberate practice, coding a new language, rehearsing language patterns, hitting the heavy bag with surgical precision. You mark each rep, each line of code, each syllable of speech. You critique yourself ruthlessly. You don't train to feel good. You train to become so capable that comfort becomes irrelevant. Evening, you don't Netflix. You don't doom scroll. You cultivate mastery. You sit in a single lamp's glow, reading a text that challenges your worldview, something complex enough to shatter assumptions. You annotate in the margins, cross-reference, question everything. You don't swallow ideas, you digest them, extract nutrients, discard the fat. You end the session by writing a brief insight that will seed tomorrow's growth. Dinner arrives and you choose wisely. Maybe you cook for yourself, making it a ritual of precision, exact temperatures, exact seasoning. You treat the act of cooking as training your discipline, or you join a chosen few people who push you intellectually, challenge you ethically, share a drive that won't let them settle. Conversation is brisk, direct, hungry for truth. Night deepens and you embark on your final mission, reflection reinforced with action. In your journal, you list the moments you conquered doubt and the moments you almost lost your nerve. You give credit where it's due and ruthlessly catalogue every slip. For each slip, you write a corrective measure, a micro-ritual to prevent repeat. You don't forgive the weak, you reprogram them. Then you uncoil your body in ritual recovery, stretching, foam rolling, breath control, recognizing that tomorrow's victory demands tonight's restoration. You immerse in cold for a final jolt, letting the shiver remind you that you command discomfort. You claim the aftershock of clarity as your right. Finally, you stand in darkness and recite your closing creed. I am the storm that reshapes the land. I am the silence that precedes thunder. I answer to no one but my own code. You feel that power thrumming in your veins. You lie down not to escape, but to ready yourself for the next assault. Sleep comes, but you never truly rest. You dream of challenges, drawing battle plans in your mind, scheming improvements, sharpening your will. And when morning comes, you'll rise again before the world is ready, before comfort dares to whisper, because this life isn't for spectators. It's for the architects of destiny. You're one of them. You don't believe in magic. You believe in leverage, mental, physical, emotional, and you extract it from every moment. Today, you turn your gaze to the arena of relationships, not to conquer hearts like a charlatan, but to forge bonds that elevate your sovereignty instead of threatening it. You start with the mirror. You stare into your own eyes until praise and shame dissolve into raw truth. You own your history, every scar, every triumph, and you refuse to beg for redemption or applause. You are the sum of your choices, and your chest expands with that realization. That's your first victory of the day, radical self-acceptance. Next, you walk the streets as if you alone hold the city's blueprint. You observe couples slumped in autopilot, friends stumbling in shallow chatter, colleagues maneuvering for status. You see the fissures in their interactions, the unspoken resentments, the performative compliments, the fear of silence. You feel no pity, you feel opportunity. You know that mastery is reflected in the quality of your connections, not the quantity. When you enter a room, you don't scan for validation, you scan for value. You watch how people move, how they gauge each other. You note who craves attention, who deflects it, who hides behind humor or conformity. Then you decide who deserves a piece of your time, who can match your intensity. You don't distribute yourself evenly. You allocate your presence like capital, investing only where returns are real growth. A woman approaches a test. She smiles, adjusts her posture, seeks your energy. Most men pounce or pantomime confidence. You don't. You meet her gaze steadily and remain internally unshaken. You welcome her curiosity, but you refuse her entitlement to your interest. In that moment of silence, she notices your control and wonders what it costs to earn it. You speak deliberately. Tell me something true, you challenge. She blinks, thrown off. Authenticity cuts through facades. If she responds genuinely, she has passed the threshold. If she defaults to chatter, you nod, thank her, and move on. You've given a gift, an invitation to realness, and shown you're not here to be entertained by illusions. Later, a colleague tries to draw you into petty office politics. You've studied human nature too long to play their game. You listen, let them vent, then strip their narrative of drama with a single question. What outcome do you actually want? They fumble, realizing they've built complaints without a plan. You've reframed their frustration into purpose. Their respect for you deepens because you didn't join the gossip, you elevated the conversation. By midday, you face the ultimate relationship challenge, your own emotional triggers. You feel the impulse to prove something, to fight for respect in someone else's eyes. You pause, breathe, and remind yourself your value is inherent, not conferred. You anchor to that truth like a lighthouse in a storm. The urge dissolves. You've mastered the real battlefield, your own mind. Afternoon brings tension. A partner or friend pushes a boundary. Maybe it's criticism disguised as advice. Maybe it's demands for time you haven't earned. You don't react. You listen, appreciate the attempt, then you assert calmly, "I'll consider it on my terms." You don't beg forgiveness for your schedule or your choices. Your dignity is a non-negotiable. They adjust or they fall away. You're at peace with both outcomes. You don't date like everyone else. You date with intention. You reject the desperation of validation seeking. You reserve your attention for moments that feel electric, not routine. When you're intrigued, you show nuance, a text that's brief but thoughtful, a meeting that's purposeful but playful. You calibrate your availability like currency, scarce, valuable, never profligate. If they chase, you listen. If they falter, you let them. You don't beg for devotion. You only explore compatibility at a level that challenges you to grow. You refuse to be a placeholder in someone's story. You demand a co-author, not a spectator. Night draws near, and you turn inward for mental sharpening. You open the latest book on advanced psychology, dark triads, emotional contagion, social signaling. You don't memorize it, you live it. Tonight, you practice recognizing micro-expressions in the mirror, subtle shifts in muscle and eye movement. You rehearse counter-strategies, a calm breath, a steady gaze, an intentional smile that disarms manipulative attempts. Next, you draft a relationship hypothesis, one experiment you'll run tomorrow to test your social acuity. Maybe you'll observe a friend's reaction to silence, or you'll challenge someone to honest feedback about your own blind spots. You sculpt your social environment with the same rigor you apply to physical training. Every interaction is data, every response a data point, every adjustment a step toward mastery. You don't fear solitude. You crave it as the crucible of self-discovery. Before bed, you enter your final ritual, 10 minutes of raw journaling. No censors. You confront the moments today when your ego flared, when you craved approval, when you flinched under pressure. You don't judge. You transmute the insights into bullet items. Replicate calm in conflict. Enforce boundaries with empathy. Seek truth over comfort. You close the notebook and feel expansion, not contraction. You uncoil your body for a final bout of breathwork, cyclical, intentional, digging into your nervous system like a miner. You surface each inhale, each exhale, until you're stripped of distraction. In that void, you implant one final command: I attract what aligns with my code. You own that promise. As sleep takes you, you know that tomorrow's conquests include not just projects and drafts, but every glance, every word, every heartbeat you share with someone else. Because true sovereignty isn't isolation, it's the power to connect without capitulation, to give without losing yourself, and to master relationships as an extension of your own inner empire. You don't stumble into greatness. You stage manage every second until the raw fabric of your life becomes a bespoke tapestry of intention. Tonight, you lean deeper into your inner workshop because the world's softening hours conceal the sharpest edges of your next evolution. You sit at your desk, the only light a single industrial lamp spotlighting your black leather notebook. Its pages are stained with sweat and instincts, your private playbook. You crack the spine and flip to the mental models section, where you've catalogued the frameworks that shape every decision. First principles, inversion, anti-fragility, second-order thinking. Not theory, but weapons. You choose inversion tonight. You'll redefine problems by inverting them, turning obstacles into guides. You sketch it out. To master any challenge, ask not, how do I succeed, but what would guarantee failure? Then eliminate those guarantees. You're tired of solutions that don't stick, so you write down today's failure points, moments you lapsed into reactive mode instead of strategic mode. There was the sudden urge to approve someone else's mediocre idea just to spare discomfort. There was that flicker of anxiety when a peer challenged your authority in the meeting. You list each under Failure Guarantee 1 and Failure Guarantee 2. Then you draw a thick diagonal line and rewrite them inverted. Refuse to validate mediocrity becomes Praise Excellence Only, and Submit to Peer Pressure becomes Reaffirm Your Stance with Data. You slap the page shut. That's the formula you'll bleed tomorrow. Your phone buzzes a temptation disguised as an urgent Slack ping. You let it flash. You don't even glance. It's not on your schedule. You mouse over the Do Not Disturb toggle and bury it for the next 6 hours. Your nervous system relaxes. You've ceded no ground. You're untouchable in your zone. Next, you open a fresh page labeled Endocrine Engineering. You're not satisfied with willpower alone. You want the chemistry of victory. You map out tonight's recovery hacks. 6 hours of blackout sleep, 20 minutes of sunlight exposure pre-breakfast, a post-meal walk to spike dopamine naturally, and 500 milligrams of magnesium bisglycinate before bed to quiet cortisol. You trace the line between habit and biology because you know the body as intimately as the mind. If you can dial your hormones like dials on a console, you become your own sovereign. You press record on your voice memo. Tomorrow's mission: escalate authority in the 10, a meeting by preparing 3 unsolvable problems and presenting a bold framework solution. Watch their reactions. Gauge fear, excitement, submission. Adjust tone to modulate dominance. You replay it twice, imprinting it into muscle memory. You name your voice's texture: calm, insistent, confident, and vow to replicate it in every key interaction. Breathing deep, you pivot to interpersonal flow. You've honed your personal magnetism to surgical precision, but tonight you upgrade. You sketch a micro-expression drill. You'll practice flickers of surprise, interest, and steady authority in the mirror, 2 seconds each, until your face becomes an unreadable code that only you can crack. People will lean in, desperate to decode you. That's your runway for influence. Your journal awaits the final entry, a short confession of your current friction. You admit, I still recoil at the thought of igniting conflict for growth. I let politeness staunch the potential for real change. You don't soften it. You don't justify. You write a brutal action step. Carry out 1 deliberate conflict tomorrow. Challenge a process at work that's leaching efficiency. Frame it as optimization, not attack. Observe the fallout. You cross your heart. This is the crucible that tempers steel. Then you close the notebook and stand. You don't collapse into bed. You prime your body with 7 minutes of yoga flows: hips, hamstrings, shoulders, because stasis dulls the edge. You weave in diaphragmatic breathing, feeling the breath drive into the pelvis, reset your core. Muscles relax, but the mind stays primed. As the clock ticks past midnight, you strip off the day's armor and lace on your nighttime ritual, a heat-cold contrast bath. 2 minutes of searing hot water, followed by 20 seconds of ice, repeated 3 times. Each shift jolts your nervous system, reboots mental patterns, and cements your command over discomfort. It's a ceremony of reinvention. Blood pumps, neurons fire. You become hyper-aware of every sinew, every thought flicker. By the final cold plunge, you feel electric, wired, vigilant, untamed. Back in your sanctuary, you dim the lamp to red. You lie on the floor with your legs against the wall, a restorative inversion that calms the parasympathetic system. You close your eyes and replay the day's highlights. The moment you didn't flinch when criticism landed, the instant you remained unshaken by the internal discomfort of pushing boundaries. You smile smugly. Progress is addictive. Your final thought before sleep is an affirmation stripped of sugar. I own chaos. I bend outcomes. I will never be owned. You surrender to darkness, but you know this rest is another act of discipline. Sleep is a weapon. Your subconscious sharpens strategies you haven't even imagined yet. And tomorrow, before anyone else breathes, you'll be awake, sharpening 1 more edge in the silent forge of your mind. Because a Sigma male's dominion isn't granted by the herd. It's crafted in the margins, in the agonizing silence between sunrise and ambition. It's built in these rituals of relentless refinement, so when the world awakes, you're already a half step ahead, the architect of your own destiny, sovereign in a kingdom of one. You stir before the first tremor of dawn, not because you set an alarm, but because your body remembers the contract you signed with yourself. You're awake, and in this sliver of nothingness you begin. Feet hit the floor and your head bows for a moment. No prayer, just respect for the machine that carried you here. You roll your shoulders, arch your spine, and listen to the muscles sing. You're not gentle, you're precise. You step into the cold splash of the shower and let the water find every nerve ending. It isn't shock, it's ignition. You welcome the burn, it marks you as alive, ready. You stand naked before the mirror, eyes locked on your reflection. No judgment, only recognition. You spot yesterday's fatigue in your jawline, the slight hitch in your breath when you paused under pressure. You note it. You don't excuse it. Today you'll correct the record. Dressed in minimal gear, the clothes you pick for function, not vanity, you head to the kitchen. Your hand moves to the supplement stack before you even think. A multivitamin, fish oil, 10 grams of collagen, a dose of nootropic blend you've tested on yourself. You don't chase trendy formulas, you experiment, measure, optimize. You pour a drink of water and let the powders settle into an invisible chemistry of clarity. You chew a protein bar as you slide out the door, timing the macro burn before breakfast. Your run today isn't cardio. It's readiness training, hill sprints in the dark, lungs ripping, muscles trembling, mind zeroed. You push until your vision blurs, until you're certain your body will protest if you stop. Then you do one more rep, because the only thing harder than winning is quitting too soon. Home again, soaked in sweat and confidence, you strip off damp clothes and move to the next ritual, breath work. You sit back straight, eyes closed. You inhale for 6 counts, hold for 3, exhale for 8. You repeat until your pulse slows and the mental static clears. Anxiety, fear, doubt, they're nothing but background noise now. You mute them at will. Breakfast is fuel tank optimization. Egg whites, spinach, avocado, and a small portion of steel-cut oats. You eat standing because stillness in motion is your default. You savor no flavor, only the promise that this body is a weapon you sharpen every day. You finish the meal in silence, staring out the window as the sky lightens. You map out the battlefield of today. You enter your office, the war room. You don't power on screens until you've opened your notebook. You sketch the impact triad for the day, the 3 objectives that will fracture complacency. Objective 1, reframe the company's flagship pitch with a radical new angle. Objective 2, secure a strategic ally by delivering unexpected value. Objective 3, exterminate one self-limiting belief by confronting it head-on. You don't dilute your triad. You don't chase low-hanging fruit. Then you boot the machine. You block social media at the router level, mute every notification. This is a sacred space of creation. You open the deck you built yesterday and dive into the first slide. You strip away jargon until only the core proposition remains. You articulate the boldest promise no competitor dares claim. You rehearse the verbal hook under your breath until it's a blade you can deploy without hesitation. Time dilates. Your fingers fly. Ideas lock into place. When your timer pings 2 hours later, you step back. 3 slides perfected, key objections anticipated, the nerve center of your argument bulletproof. You've turned an abstract concept into a weapon of persuasion. Next, the social arena. You walk into the office's common area with that same confidence, unseen, untouchable. You can feel people's eyes track you, hunting for cracks. You find 2 colleagues you respect and drop a tactical insight. I noticed our competitor is ignoring segment X. We can own it. You don't wait for gratitude. You watch their eyes light up. You've just seeded a shift in strategy. They'll chase you for more, and you'll give them only what serves your long game. Lunch arrives and you meet a potential partner. You scan their posture, their tone, the micro gestures that betray uncertainty. You've prepared the script but don't recite it. You inject questions that force them to reveal needs they didn't know they had. You listen. You adapt. Within 15 minutes, they're selling you on their own plan, one that dovetails perfectly with your agenda. You don't chase deals. You harvest them. Afternoon's crisis hits when a server crashes in the middle of a demo. Most freeze. You don't. You've logged crisis management protocols into muscle memory. You type commands, restore data, reroute traffic, all while fielding frantic messages. In 10 minutes, you're back online. You smile behind the screen. You like it when chaos shows its face. That's your signal to strike. As the sun dips, you transition to ancestor worship, Stoic meditation. You pull out Marcus Aurelius, read a passage on impermanence. You close the book and write in your journal, "What I build today can vanish tomorrow, so build with purpose, not ego." You reflect on your triad. You've shattered the flagship pitch, you've cemented the partnership, and you've wrestled the crisis. Each bullet crosses itself out in brilliant red. Achievement, however, is a stopgap for ambition. You don't linger. When evening light fades, you go to the gym or back into the city. Your choice depends on the evening's assignment. Sometimes it's a sparring session with a coach who dismantles your weak points. Sometimes it's a one-on-one dinner with a mentor who demands brutal honesty. Tonight, it's the latter. You're at a minimalist restaurant, candlelight, and a single table. You talk strategy, you invite critique, you share your failure points and watch them sharpen you with incisive questions. You swallow pride along with each bite, knowing that real mastery is forged in feedback. Back home, it's time for digital exorcism. You power off the world. No screens, no pings. You light a candle, sit at your desk, and open the notebook one last time. You catalog 3 failures of the day: a moment you hesitated under pressure, a response you wished you'd withheld, a plan you didn't follow through. For each, you write a corrective ritual, a micro-habit to cement the fix. Then you close the book, switch to your recliner, and slide into the ice-heat contrast bath one final time. 4 rounds. By the last plunge, your mind is free of doubt, your body humming with restored vitality. You towel off, grab your journal, and lie back under a single lamp. You write your final line, "I finish stronger than I start always." You fold the page, extinguish the lamp, and breathe deeply as darkness folds you into sleep. Tomorrow arrives as it always does, silent, uninvited, full of raw potential, and you awake before dawn, sovereign in your mind, ruthless in your refinement, will bend it to your will once again. You wake to the faint hum of possibility before the alarm screams. You don't hit snooze. You sit up, legs over the side of the bed, and you feel the weight of your own expectations pressing your feet to the floor. That's good. It reminds you why you never stopped at comfort. Your first act is non-negotiable: cold exposure. You step into the shower and twist the knob until the water cuts like glass. Your muscles seize, your mind snaps upright, and you inhale the shock. It's baptism by discipline. You stay under long enough to taste the burn, then you step out, rejuvenated, electrified, unmoved by soft pleas for warmth. Dressed in gear chosen for silent efficiency, you move to the kitchen. The supplement bottles line up like soldiers at parade rest. You take the multivitamin, the adaptogen stack, the nootropic blend. No labels matter except performance. You wash them down with green tea, no sugar, no compromise. Before breakfast, you meditate 5 minutes, eyes closed, posture rigid. You scan your mind like a radar for stray anxieties. When one surfaces a worry about that deal, a twinge of self-doubt, you trap it with a breath, hold it, and exhale it into silence. You don't chase peace, you enforce it. Breakfast is again fuel, not pleasure. Liquid oats, raw egg white, spinach, MCT oil. You drink it standing, back straight, as you review today's mission. You've distilled it into a single sentence: own the room, neutralize resistance, leave no doubt. That's your North Star. You arrive at the office before anyone else, ghost in the corridors. You slip to your war room, your desk, shut the door, and engage focus mode at the router. Notifications die. Chat windows vanish. You lock in for the first deep work session of the day. Task: craft the killer slide deck for next week's board review. You attack it like a blacksmith at the forge, hammering raw ideas into steel-hard arguments. By 10 am, you've drafted the core narrative: concise, brutal, irreducible. At 10:15 the pack trickles in, but you're 2 moves ahead. A colleague tries to draw you into chatter about the latest office drama. You smile softly, stand and say, "Let's discuss this over coffee after I'm done." You don't need to explain. Your calm deflects them. You've already turned gossip into a tool for context, and you'll revisit it only on your terms. Next, the stakeholder meeting. You enter with conviction, nod at their presentations, then at your cue stand and deliver. You speak slowly, each word deliberate. You dismantle outdated assumptions, reframe their metrics, and draw a new trajectory with razor-sharp clarity. You don't raise your voice, you raise their expectations. Silence follows your last slide. Eyes flick, phones stay in pockets. You've seized the intellectual high ground. Lunch is functional, a high-protein wrap and water. You eat alone in the training room, running a 5-step breathing protocol between bites prime your nervous system for the afternoon. You've trained yourself to perform under metabolic stress. Others see a lone wolf. You see a man in masterful control of his internal state. Afternoon brings opportunities, requests for favors and soft power plays. You filter them. Is this request aligned with your mission? If yes, you grant it with conditions designed to extract reciprocal value. If no, you schedule it for vision alignment next quarter, or you decline outright. No guilt, no apology. Your calendar is your strongest perimeter. In the late afternoon stretch, you retreat from mobility work. You've mapped your body's pressure points and built a 5-minute routine to keep them supple. As you stretch, you replay the day's exchange with that difficult client. You notice the flicker of annoyance you almost let surface. You file that as intel. Tomorrow, when tension rises, maintain neutral expression and turn it into a data-gathering moment. Evening, you join a small mastermind dinner. 4 people who push you intellectually, call your assumptions into question. You share one vulnerability, a project thread that snared you, and invite brutal feedback. You wince, you scribble, you thank them. This is armor forging. You don't want easy praise, you want the hammer. Back at home, night rituals begin. You dim lights, shut down all devices, and open your notebook. You create a failure log, 3 moments when you deviated from your code. You don't write excuses, only facts. Then you draft corrective mini-rituals. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. when fatigue hits, you'll do 2 minutes of box breathing. At 5 p.m. when social pressure builds, you'll replay your value proposition silently to steady yourself. Next, you engineer your sleep environment. Blackout, cool air, white noise machine tuned to your optimal frequency. You set an alarm for 4:45 am because you've learned that greatness happens in the hours most people waste. Lastly, you sit in darkness for 2 minutes of gratitude, not for comfort and praise, but for the raw chance to refine yourself. You breathe deeply, feeling the boundary between who you are and who you will become. Then you lie down, mind humming with tomorrow's blueprint. You drift off not into fantasies, but into problem solving. Your subconscious simulates tomorrow's battles, tweaks strategies, replays dialogues. You sleep knowing that before dawn arrives again, you'll be standing armored in discipline, ready to bend the world to your relentless will. You wake to the whisper of your own heartbeat before the world even registers its first breath. Your eyes open unblinking because sleep is a luxury you earn, not a habit you indulge. You swing your legs over the side of the bed and feel the floor greet you like an ally. No stirring of excuses, no resistance, only motion. You rise. You slip into the shower, but it's not a ritual of cleanliness. It's a bullwhip on your nervous system. You twist the valve until the water slices through you like shards of ice. Your lungs flare, your teeth chatter, you welcome the sting. You've taught your body that pain is information, not injury. You emerge baptized in alertness, spine charged. clad in simple, functional gear, you step into the kitchen and command your morning arsenal. Multivitamin, adaptogens, collagen, precisely dosed nootropics. Each capsule is a lever, and you pull them without hesitation. You wash them down with cold water, tasting clarity in the shock. Your blood becomes a river of intent. Before you touch food, you meditate. 5 minutes, posture locked, eyes fixed on the space between your eyebrows. You watch each thought rise like a bubble. Doubt, regret, desire. You don't grasp. You don't judge. You dissolve them with breath until the mind is a still pool. That stillness is the springboard for action. Breakfast is pure function. Pasteurized egg whites, steamed kale, a quarter avocado, MCT oil. You stand and eat slowly, chewing each mouthful like you'd examine a weapon before battle. You don't taste pleasure, you taste power. When you finish, you're calibrated and ready. You step outside into the pre-dawn wind and run. But this isn't cardio, it's reconnaissance. You chart the terrain of your own limits, pushing the pace uphill, resisting exhaustion at every stride. You sprint until your vision fragments, then one more. You sprint until the world blurs, then 2 more. You return home shaken but sovereign, every cell lit with purpose. At your desk by first light, you open your notebook and plot the day's relentless triad, the 3 stakes that will test your mettle. You don't confuse busy work with breakthroughs. Task 1, shatter the narrative that's holding your project hostage. Task 2, engineer a conversation that redefines your value to a critical stakeholder. Task 3, dismantle a personal fear that's been lurking in the back of your skull. You imprint each line with underlining so heavy it's etched in your mind. You boot your machine, kill every notification at the source, and dive into deep work. You remove every barrier, no phone, no background music, no open tabs. You're an operative in a siege, and your mission is non-negotiable. Hours collapse. You build arguments, refine frameworks, push boundaries of your own thinking. You produce more in 3 hours than most do in 3 days. When noon arrives, you refuse the usual pit stop. You've packed a tactical meal, a lean protein wrap, fermented greens, nuts. You eat alone in a quiet corner, closing your eyes for 2 minutes of box breathing to reset. You don't socialize. You don't scroll. You don't waste your enemy's window of opportunity. You prime your system for the afternoon skirmishes. The first battle comes disguised as a collaboration meeting. They want your time. They want your energy. You know their agenda because you've studied their patterns. You guide the conversation with 2 questions. What's the real outcome you need? And how does my success align with yours? You frame the partnership so that it serves your trajectory. You walk away with their buy-in and no concessions. Their surprise is a bonus. Later, you face a communication test, a flurry of emails laced with passive aggression. Most men respond in anger or retreat. You do neither. You read each line as if it's a map to their insecurities. You craft 2 sentences in response. Factual, neutral, containing an offer of resolution wrapped in your terms. You send it. Their uncertainty fuels your advantage. You've turned conflict into currency. Mid-afternoon, fatigue tries to creep in. You catch it at the first twitch of your eyelid. You stand, shut your eyes, and engage a quick isometric routine: plank, wall sit, calf raises. 90 seconds flat. You feel blood rush, mind clear, posture reset. You return to your chair with the surge of an engine firing up. Next comes the influence drill. You choose one person in your sphere, someone whose perception of you could unlock a new door. You approach with 0 fanfare, ask a precise question framed to reveal their true motive, then listen. Their guard falls in microseconds, and you exploit that microsecond with empathy and insight. You don't manipulate. You align. You turn their need into your opportunity. They leave thinking they led the encounter when in fact you orchestrated every note. As evening closes in, you switch modes. The warrior must rest but also reflect. You blend a recovery drink with casein, protein, glutamine, and magnesium. You sit by a single lamp and open your journal. You catalog today's edge gains, moments where you leveled up, and edge leaks, times you faltered. You write them bluntly, no sugarcoat, no excuses. For each edge leak, you draft a countermeasure. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. you'll test your fear of public critique by presenting an impromptu idea in the team huddle. At 3 p.m. when you crave a dopamine hit, you'll do a 2-minute gratitude check-in instead. You don't hope these rituals work, you schedule them to ensure they will. Next, you engineer your sleep like a mission plan. You close every curtain to blackout, set your thermostat to 64 degrees Fahrenheit, turn on your white noise machine at the exact decibel you've measured to induce deep REM, and switch off every screen. You mount your alarm for 4:30 a.m. because you know the war doesn't wait. You lie down and replay tomorrow's 3 critical missions in your mind's eye, iterating strategies, anticipating obstacles, rehearsing your mental resilience. The scenarios flicker fast, each more demanding than the last. You don't drift into fantasies, you enter a tactical simulation. As your eyelids finally close, you feel no fear. You feel fuel. You feel the gravity of self-imposed standards. You sleep knowing that when you wake before dawn, there'll be no hesitation, only the extension of a sovereign trajectory. You are the storm and the calm, the architect and the warrior. And in the silence before the world stirs, you claim every inch of your dominion once more. You stir at 4:30 a.m. before the alarm can scream, a reflex now, not chance. Your eyes snap open, your mind is already in motion, scanning for today's apex challenge. You roll off the bed, landing on your feet like a strike force, feet firm, spine locked. You inhale the quiet dark and taste opportunity. You don't meander to the shower, you sprint. The moment you twist the knob, water hammers your body like artillery fire. You don't flinch. You lean into the cold until your flesh feels electrified. That shock isn't punishment, it's permission to be fully alive. You step out, heart roaring, invigorated by the pain you've mastered. Within seconds you're at the counter, pills in precise formation, nootropics, adaptogens, collagen. You down them in one drink of water, feeling a chemical cascade of focus ignite your brain. Your reflection in the steel mug confirms it. Alert eyes, set jaw, no trace of yesterday's fatigue. Barefoot on the hardwood, you flow into breathwork. Inhale 4, hold 7, exhale 8, repeat until the mind unclutters. Every stray thought that tries to sneak in is tagged and dismissed. No doubt, no regret, no need for approval. That's the pregame. Your mind is now a chamber with walls fortified against attack. Breakfast is 2 bites. Raw egg white omelette with kale and MCT oil. You stand, elbows locked, back straight. Each chew feels like you're feeding an engine that doesn't run on fuel, but on relentlessness. You swallow and feel the throttle open. You slip into your minimal gear black compression tough trainers because you don't dress for fashion. You dress for function, for war. You jog out before daybreak, but this isn't a jog. It's a tactical reconnaissance, a series of 400-meter sprints with 60-second rests, testing your own thresholds. Your lungs burn, your legs scream, and you push 1 rep further than last session because rest is for the weak. Back home, still sweating, you hammer out a 2-minute dynamic stretch, hips, ankles, shoulders, then plant both feet on the floor and snap open your notebook. You call today's play Level Up Presence. You ink 3 razor-sharp objectives. 1. Dominate the 9 and briefing with an unscripted insight no one saw coming. 2. 3. Establish a micro-alliance by lunchtime, 1 ally you can leverage next week. 4. 5. Confront your fear of emotional exposure by sharing authentic vulnerability in tomorrow's mastermind call. 6. Ink done, you boot your laptop and flip the do not disturb switch at the router, no pings, no alerts. You're in the war room. Slide deck open, you craft the killer insight for the 9 and briefing, 1 data point reframed, 1 angle bulldozed. By 8:50, your narrative is so sharp it cuts through preconceptions like a laser. You stride into the conference room and claim the crossroads. You don't ask for permission, you take the floor. You deliver your insight in a calm, measured tone, no theatrics, no filler, just truth pressed into their consciousness. Silence crashes down. You finish, nod once and sit. You've set the tone. You don't just participate, you redefine. Mid-morning, you hunt your ally. 2 people in the office could move the needle for your project. You corner the first during a coffee break. You offer a micro win, you share a single data table they need, and you underline how this win helps their goal. Their eyes light up. You've seeded reciprocity. You thank them and walk away. You'll harvest the favor tomorrow. Lunch is a solo mission. You eat at your desk, steamed greens and lean protein, eyes forward. You chew in silence, running a mental map of office politics, who's in, who's out, where the power flows. You file every micro-expression you catch. Data is everywhere, you just have to harvest it. Afternoon brings the emotional test. Your phone beeps with feedback from a peer. They've questioned your leadership style. Most would panic, respond defensively. You don't. You pause, breathe, then craft a 2-line reply. Thanks for the note. Let's chat Friday for clarity on shared goals. You send it. You've diffused the needle and moved the needle, conflict neutralized, authority intact. Next, you execute your micro-alliance mission. You join your new allies' workspace and ask 2 loaded questions that reveal their urgent roadblocks. You listen, absorb, then drop 1 suggestion so laser-focused it feels like gold. They lean in, ask for more. You say, let's sync Monday with resources ready. You've cemented the bond. You hold the seat of power in the exchange. Late afternoon, you shift. You clamp down any lure of distraction. You complete your last triad task, exposing your vulnerability in the mastermind chat. You craft a short, honest post. I've realized I freeze under peer critique, holding back bold ideas. Tomorrow, I'll share an unfiltered pitch live. Anyone want to hold me accountable? You hit post. You've just harnessed fear and turned it into traction. You don't hide, you broadcast your growth agenda. The day's mission is done, but you're not spent. You head to the dojo for a precision sparring session, speed, technique, mental fortitude. You trade blows until your defenses get shredded, then you rebuild them in the next round. You master 1 slip, drill the correction, cement it. You're not training your body, you're etching lessons into muscle memory. Home again, sweat dripping, heart still pacing. You drop to the floor for mobility, foam roll, stretch, hip openers, clear the tension so tomorrow you conquer fresh ground. Then you sip your nightcap, magnesium-loaded herbal tea, no sugar, no haze. You open your journal and list tonight's edge advances and edge leaks. You don't spare feelings, just facts and fixes. For each leak, you assign a micro-ritual. Shift that repeat weakness into a new habit. Finally, you engineer your sleep bunker, blackout walls, cool air, white noise set at your secret decibel. You mount the alarm for 4 a.m. because you know the limelight is earned before the masses even stir. You close your eyes and replay tomorrow's mission, each conflict scenario, each alliance check-in, each vulnerability hurdle. You rehearse your voice, your posture, your unwavering calm. Then you surrender to sleep, not as an escape, but as the next frontier of conquest. Because when the world drags itself awake, you will already be 3 moves ahead, architect of your own destiny, sovereign of your silent dominion.